Okay, hi everyone. It's Dr. Rebecca Troy, and today I am so honored to be with our client Fiona. She is the mother of an incredible 9-year-old boy whose name is Jarvis, and they are joining us today from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And so I'm really excited to be celebrating him because Jarvis is actually the first client that we've had who has topped the chart in reading. Like he couldn't have gotten a higher score than what he got. So I'm really, really excited to share his information with you today. So Fiona, I'm going to just kind of turn things over to you and just ask if you would start by sharing a little bit about what it was like for Jarvis prior to starting the program.
Thank you so much, Becky, and it's so lovely to be here, and I'm so excited and grateful to be celebrating Jarvis. And he just turned 10, so that's another great milestone, and this following year is looking bright for him, which is very, very exciting. So well, when we first reached out to you, I was certainly full of apprehension and really was seeking a sense of, okay, look, I'm willing to do whatever it is for my little boy, but I need to have certainty it's going to work. And that's because for at least 6 years, so when, Jarvis suddenly became unwell when he was 3. And so for the last, 6 to 7 years, it had been a journey for all of us in terms of helping him in the best way. And during that time, there's been a lot that we have done, a huge investment of time and energy and money, resources of all forms to really support him. And sometimes we would see a glimpse of hope, a shimmer of hope and a sense of taking a step forward. And other times it felt like we were spiraling backwards or even getting worse. And that has been, it can be a really heartbreaking, difficult experience. So in terms of where he has been at, so when he first fell unwell, obviously there's a lot of organic issues underlying Jarvis, which was one of the biggest questions that I had for you. Is this going to work with him in light of the organic stuff that's going on, like real stuff? It's fine if it's just an isolated thing, but like, come on, we've been working really hard on the other elements of his health, such as digestive issues and severe fatigue and, brain fog and concentration and focus. And, overnight when he was 3, he woke up and he had a severe stutter. He couldn't speak at all. Like he'd lost the ability to speak. And like I said, a myriad of other symptoms. And then it's just been this sort of like trying and doing everything that we can do. My background is an integrative doctor. I'm now a transformation coach. So I can assure you I've got a breadth of experience. I've got an incredible understanding of how the body, mind, and spirit works. And it's thanks to Jarvis and this journey that we've been on that I really can get a sense of what we were looking for. So we learned from our mistakes. We had really why we sort of came to you was that there was a lot that we had sort of made gains on in terms of his speech, even though we were told, 95% chance to have a severe stutter. So I'm going to celebrate that. We got his speech into perfection. His speech is perfect. But we're noticing, and it started when we homeschooled for a year in 2020. And we started to notice, wow, he really has this refusal to write. He really had this extreme difficulty in getting his ideas onto paper, no matter what strategies I do. And I'm full of strategies. It's what I do well, is to think up creative ways to bring out potential. And we would just find that it wasn't a personality thing. He had a desire to do it, but he just couldn't. And then it would spiral into anxiety. And before we knew it, he'd have writing refusal. We also, with time, started to notice that his spelling wasn't progressing. We also noticed that he could read. He loved nonfiction. He loved to learn about nature and animals and science and, oh my gosh, but he could only do it for short periods of time. So maybe 10 minutes at a time, or he refused fiction. He just he wanted, like, he loved Harry Potter. He was really into ideas and creation. This is a kid where I would rock down the street and he's dressed up as a dinosaur magician, really creative. And people would be like, oh, you guys going to a dress up party today? No, this is just how we rock. Like, this is how we roll. This is Jarvis. He's creative. But we started to notice how he just wasn't able to engage fully in that, even though we could sense that he's a big thinker, he's a dreamer, and so it was really hard. We went back to school. He decided, so we moved, we engaged with the local school here. In that particular year, we transitioned, obviously, the care of Jarvis, or that element, over to his teacher, and we were just sort of watching what was happening. And we just noticed throughout the year he was falling further and further behind. The advice that we were getting didn't sit right, but I was managing myself to give the benefit of doubt. And we were just, by the end of last year, he had failed writing. He was like really getting oppositional to doing homework. Like, he's a very happy-go, engaged, trusting little boy, and he was just sort of having enough. Like, he could just sense, Mum, we're not getting anywhere. And that was kind of like a feeling that was growing within us as well, as like, okay, what has been put forward doesn't feel right to me. And I know if it doesn't feel right to me, it's all over. Like, that's been our journey. It's got to feel right. It's got to feel aligned. All right, fantastic. And there are a lot of strategies that had been suggested through there. So they recommended other specialists like OT, and just didn't feel like we're really getting to the crux of the issue. Like, it's some helpful tips, but it was kind of like, we're going to have to manage this moving forward. And I'm an unconventional thinker, of course, it's why he now has he can speak eloquently. So we just left it. We celebrated summer, Christmas, summer. We have a hot Christmas here, like you guys. So we enjoyed the beach. We just let it go, and we came back and we had a beautiful conversation with our new teachers. We just rallied support. I was just like, okay, it's time to advocate. It's time for Mama Bear to step in. And we had made a decision to get him assessed from a neuropsychologist, so a full assessment to really determine what there was. Based on my experience last year, it was kind of like initially, oh, it's just him, it's personality, he's just being a bit lazy. And I'm like, this is not my son. You don't know him. Like, this is not right. And so I drove that. I was the driving force for that assessment, because I just knew, like, here is a kid, and all the teachers, everyone who would speak to him is like, oh my gosh, he is so articulate and he's got so many ideas and he's so intelligent, but yet he can't write. He refuses to write. He's falling behind in class. His spelling is atrocious. And I'm like, there's this discrepancy. So let's determine what's going on. And I thought, okay, is it dyspraxia? Is it dyslexia? What is there? And so we got him formally assessed. At the time that I just went, all right, universe, it's time. I'm not chasing a solution. I'm waiting for something to come that is a perfect fit. And what I want is something that is actually going to resolve the issue. Like, not I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to take the effort. I'm really willing to put in the hard work, but I want it to make sense, feel right, to feel supported, and ultimately have a lasting effect that is going to support him for the rest of his life, a pivotal shift. And as you know, I've shared this with you, I received a magazine from my business community, and this was like 3 days later after I negotiated with Universal Love. And I opened it up and I said, it was like, dyslexia solutions. And I was like, well, that sounds like what I need. And I zinged and I went, oh, this is good. And that's when I reached out to you, and I reached out to you very clear. As you can tell, I'm very empowered, but very clear, knowing what I wanted, and was just like, look, we are willing. We have so much evidence of who we are. Like, we have invested in year-long neurofeedback courses where we would sit every day and do 45 minutes to an hour of retraining, and we committed and we were consistent, even though we weren't seeing results. We're like, we'll follow instructions and keep going until the end of the year. It looked like he'd actually gone backwards. Like we are committed to do it and follow and see things through. But I needed from you reassurance that it was going to work. And that's why we had the conversation. And in that conversation, it just was like, okay, was I 100% certain? No, there's still that residue of, oh my gosh, here we go again, and we'd laugh and be like, well, this is so much easier than what we've done before. I mean, we've done the diets, we've done all the testing, we've done it all, we've done all the supplements, we're doing it all. The things that we've done for him organically, for his organic stuff, is an impressive list. But we were just like, this feels right, so let's lean in and do it. So really where he was at from that, I mean, it was, like I said, spelling, writing refusal, confidence. He's becoming a shell of who he could be, this discrepancy of what you could see his potential to be, but he was locked up. As I would say, it was just like his brain was locked up. And that was probably, it's a part of the illness. It's a part of the bigger picture, so that's where he was at before we started working with you.
And so I know that you already touched on this, and thank you for your share, because I think just knowing how much investment you have put into this journey is, I think, a big part of this story and why this celebration is that much more special. But, when you think about some of the reasons why you were so invested in moving forward, like what would you say was in your heart and at the core of you in terms of why you needed to do this now?
He's in year 4 this year. I think there is a transition developmentally anyhow that starts, last year, this year, heading on to the next year. He's going to become one of the senior of the primary schools here. And it is an important time to support him, especially from that confidence point of view. Like, honestly, I'm not someone who feels that academic results correlate with success in life. And by success, I mean purpose and joy and, a fulfilled life. And there's so much reasons for that. I mean, I was academically very strong. I had to go through my own experience of burnout to, find this beautiful life that we have. So I don't believe academic, but what I do believe is a sense of self is really important. And for my husband and I, that was really critical. Like, I went through school with a sense of, I can do this. I've got this. Anything, anytime, anywhere, I've got it. I can do this. And my husband, who is exactly Jarvis, huge potential, huge intelligence, gifted in so many ways, but locked in. The lack of confidence, like a deep mark on his self-esteem, has limited him. And in his earlier years, it really just limited his opportunities, limited in his self-belief, limited it in so many ways that we both, like, for Nick and I, that was the hardest thing to see. And I think it's also just curiosity. Like, if we overcome this, what then? Like, just the possibility that, we could completely change the trajectory of his life because we are able to get him tapped into his potential. It's not about our agenda. It's about him to be able to say, okay, buddy, what do you want to say? Say it. What do you want to write? Write it. You want to become a writer? Fantastic. And so that's probably, the desire, I think, for us to do that. And I think, honestly, knowing, the ego is pretty strong, there's also, as a mum, there's also, it's just like, it's one of the greatest sufferings, I think, in life. There's no greater challenge than witnessing your son, your daughter, your child because you're the guardian, and there's this sense of, well, if I can do something, then let's do it. And you can try and contain, and we do get distracted and we get really depleted as mums and all of this, and so we lose sight of it. But there is this, I call it the roar of the goddess, there's this deep, like, let me protect him, let me step in. And so when we can do something about it, it feels good. When we're swimming in the sea of, I don't know, I'm confused, everyone's telling me all the different things, people are saying they don't get me, they don't get him, it's a really uncomfortable place to be. So if they're, again, from a selfish perspective, if there's something that I could do, there's great joy to be able to do that for my little man.
I do. I absolutely do. 100%.
Yeah.
So let's talk about probably my favorite part of this conversation. Like,
absolutely.
tell me about Jarvis
The
now.
celebration.
Yes.
The celebration. Let's do
it. Celebrate all of the things that he's doing now. Some of his, whether it's his internal strength or, some of his reading skills or his writing skills. Tell us, like, what is it looking like for Jarvis right now?
So a new celebration, which you're not aware of, is
okay,
last
great.
week I was walking with Jarvis. Yeah. And we're lucky, we're surrounded by rainforest. So after school, Jarvis and I go out. It was a one-on-one time. He has a younger brother, but it was a one-on-one time, and we're talking about free time at school today. And it was writing, free time in writing. And he was like, I just loved it, Mum. Oh my gosh, I got started. I'm writing the story about a demigod, son of Poseidon, and he's going to do this, and these are the gifts. And I was like, okay, so how much did you write in this session? 2 full paragraphs, Mum. Right? So, and I was just teasing. So each line had like 3 words on it. No, Mum, it's like 5, 6, 7 words on it. Okay. Right. And he's like, and his friend, he said his friend just looked at him and said, what's going on? What did he say? Oh, he said something like, how did you do that? How did you get so much out? And so, like, he was dumbfounded, like looking at Jarvis, like, I haven't even come up with an idea. I haven't even got started, and you've already written 2 paragraphs. So I think it's this celebration of his writing.
Yeah.
But it's a celebration of expression.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to give him a gift that you've got great ideas, buddy, and you can now get them out. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. It's a great gift, isn't it? Wow. Like, and wow. For no other thing than joy for him to be able to write, because he wants to write about demigods. Wow. Isn't that a fantastic thing? Because he's passionate about Greek mythology, and to be able to, in free time, just write for the pleasure of writing, I think is a really wonderful thing. Wow. One of the things that had been incredibly frustrating as a parent, just to say honestly, but also really heartbreaking to see for him, is just the delay in execution. Like, an idea to getting started would sometimes, even if it was to follow or copy a sentence that I had written, it could take up to 20 minutes. If we were asking him to take an idea, he knows we've talked about what it is, to actually get started would take up to 40 minutes. And I'm not exaggerating. There was that much, something blocking him. So to have that as a celebration, I hope you can understand the context of it. It is big. Wow. It's big. His spelling has improved as well. Like, just overall, his spelling's improved, and you've got the data to explain that. But also how he goes about his spelling is good, like willing to give it a go. There may be elements of perfectionism that had sort of stopped him, but it's also lack of confidence to even know about a strategy to do it. And so just having that as a foundational shift in his spelling, I feel like it's not over. We've still got things to do together, but he is at a standard that just has opened up doorways. He can be in the classroom and learn and try. And that's the other celebration. Earlier this year, we're getting feedback that he's a wanderer. Like, he wanders in the classroom. Again, it's not a lack of desire to be a really good student. That's Jarvis. You meet him and you're just like, he's a good kid. Like, he's just as a desire to be really good in the world, to grow up and be great. That's Jarvis. And so he wants to be there. He wants to be in the classroom. But what I feel has really happened and shifted is the capacity. Like, he compensated very, very well. If you look at his reading before we started, and I think he was on the 96th centile, so he was good for reading. So again, there's this massive gap. He was like great at reading, but spelling and writing was like bomb, like a huge gap.
Yep.
And the thing is, though, he was compensating, I believe, so hard to do that. He would only last for about 10 minutes, and the fatigue would just be like, and so he would get up and move around, wander. He'd have such brain fog. He'd talk about mama, it was just foggy. Like, we have this conversation about, how was your fog today, good or bad? And so the brain having to work that hard, he just didn't have the capacity or reserves to be able to do it. And so he's trying to be in the room with his teacher. He's trying to learn. But, we've all had children. We know what it's like in that first trimester, like the newborn phase, when they're just born to 3 months and you're not getting much sleep and you got that brain fog. Like, I can only imagine that that's what it was for Jarvis, And so he has picked up a book. He's into Percy Jackson, of course, all about Greek mythology and demigods. And he has just demolished these books. He has just, what the second book, he read it in 3 or 4 days, because he had the capacity to keep reading. Now, and the importance is that it's also, I do believe that there's a difference between fiction and non-fiction. Sure. Fiction requires more of the brain to be engaged, and it's like, oh my gosh, especially his little sensitive brain of thinking, oh my gosh, wow. And so the fact that it's not just reading cover to cover of a non-fiction book, this is a fiction. I'm embracing this whole magical world. It's just been really beautiful to see. And the joy is, now we can, it's been his birthday, Christmas is coming up, we know what we can get him,
More reading
books. Yes. So I think, him being settled in class, and when we got him assessed by the neuropsychologist, there was a opportunity to have diagnosed him based on his poor concentration and focus. And at that stage, I just said, I don't see that that's going to benefit him, because we aren't that way inclined to necessarily use medications where he's at this stage. And in Australia, you don't get any extra additional attention or care in school for that, for a diagnosis of ADHD. And my gut was right, because, like I said, it's not that he doesn't have concentration issues, but I think he's in the normal spectrum now. And with his brain getting unlocked, you're just seeing him more and more settled. He has more capacity to take in the world around him versus, oh my gosh, I'm like overwhelmed and where was I, and fiddling and that. So that is a really good, and whether it's just this, we're also doing other elements. Of course, we're layering things in it, but what we're seeing in his mathematics, I think really, I believe, reinforces what we've seen with his reading and his writing. And so, again, he would get it for a moment, he'd get his multiplication, he's got it, and then the next day he's forgotten it. So it's just this ability. His working memory is otherwise good, but it's just mathematics was this problem. And what we've noticed, and there's a natural, repetition is going to make him be able to retain more, but it's just as more noticeable with, say, 3 times 7, 21, and he's got it. It's like, wow. And he's like, wow, where did that come from? I don't know, my brain just knew it, Mum. But his ability to strategize, to figure it out, he didn't have.
Wow.
And that was quite frustrating as a parent. He'd be just like, he would just get caught in this, like, okay, what's 3 times 4? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And he would just freeze, and he couldn't. And we'd be just like, it's okay, buddy. What do you know? Well, I know 3 times 3. And okay, well, like, just try and figure it out. Now he might be like 6 times 8, he knows that one, it's 48. 6 times 7, what do I need to do? I don't know what it is. How do I figure it out? So it's like his brain can now follow a strategy to figure things out. And I think overall that's going to really boost his confidence in profound ways, like to be able to figure things out from his spelling with his mathematics. You know, we see it. It's just a sense of, I've got this, you know, I've got it. And as I shared during our journey, we came across Dyslexia Legends.
Yes.
It's this book that's A to Z of all these famous, amazing people who have done amazing things in the world, who all had dyslexia. You know, Jarvis it really hit him. It had a really profound effect with him as we're doing this work, because he's just like, Mum, I have a superpower. Like, I've got dyslexia. His little brother is like, but I want dyslexia, you know? like, how come Jarvis gets all these cool things? And so he's just, there's this sense of like, actually, I get to own this and tap into a power that's so beautiful, a confidence, a certainty. And, you know, it's not over. Like, the journey is not over. The journey is, we're continuing, because there's still a discrepancy, and I'll let you share the data in his reading to the other markers. And so, you know, his teacher was like, so he'd gone from a D, she's like, I really think he's got the potentiality of a B student. And I'm like, yeah, but I could feel like his potential is even more than that, based
Absolutely.
on other things that I've seen with him. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, to speak to that, so I mean, to your point, he was at the 96th percentile for his reading when he started the program. So that's really wonderful. But I do agree with you in that he probably overcompensated and was able to use a lot of his memorization and other compensatory tools to get him through that material. Because even just in the physicality, like you had sent me those videos of Jarvis reading before and after, you could see in his face, in his body, that there was a struggle before. I mean, yes, he was reading at the 96th percentile, but just in his speed, in the way that he just held himself, it was a completely different experience from the first
and his
time to
face,
the
it's just
second.
effort.
Yes.
Effort, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, still, even though when you get higher up onto the continuum in this normal distribution curve, it's harder to go a full standard deviation of change when you are right up at the top. And so he did. I mean, he topped the chart. We couldn't have given him a higher score than what he got. So I think it's just really incredible, the gains that he was able to make in that, as well as in spelling. I mean, I think you mentioned this, but it was the 14th percentile, which means that, you know, out of 100 kids, there were 14 of them that he was better than at the start of the program. And by the time he finished, I think it was near 60. You know, I think it was like the 58th percentile, but that's just in a couple of months. And so, yes, there are still some spelling patterns and some, you know, Greek and Latin root words and prefixes and those types of things that he can still build upon. But his ability to actually hear and respond to the language changed significantly. I mean, like when you look at that assessment for his phonological awareness, oh my goodness, it was, you know, things that he had missed in terms of even just being able to hear the word. And by the end, that was resolved. And so
yeah, he aced it.
I think the final thing that I think would be really powerful for you to share is just, you know, who you had to be throughout this process, because I think it's one thing to have the tools to know how to change the strategy, and those are certainly things that, you know, we can give to parents, but it's yet another skill to kind of embody this. What did you call it? A warrior?
Yeah, roar like a goddess.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
completely.
to have that as part of your own identity, that you have embodied as Jarvis's mother, the person who's responsible for his success. I mean, will you just share a little bit about your journey that you've had? I mean, it doesn't have to be just with this program, but like, who do you feel like you had to be in order to kind of get Jarvis to this moment? And did you learn
Mm.
anything else new about, the process or yourself along the way?
Yeah, yeah. It's certainly been not just this program, but this whole challenge has certainly been one of the biggest classrooms for me. But the beautiful thing is like you said, it's the opportunity, isn't it, for us to come back to our heart, to the truth of who we are, and what I refer to as the power that is within us. That when we do that, that's when we do open ourselves up to possibility and potentiality, and growth for me, for him. And now we get to really cherish what we have and who he's become. Like, he is a deeply compassionate boy, like deeply compassionate, because he had to live with a disability for many years. Like, he couldn't speak for 2 years. So he really understands that. And he's also incredibly strong, a strong character with this sense of resilience when it comes face to face with a challenge and how to go about it now. And he's a believer in miracles. Like, we truly see this, the miraculousness in what we have accomplished as a family for him. And we're gonna savor that. Do you understand? We're really going to not hold judgment against the person who told us that he'd have a stutter for 95% chance of stutter, or other people in roles with very strict conventional thinking that says this is the way it is and you're just going to have to learn with it, like deal with it, you're just going to have to live with it. Like, I get where they're at, and it's just that we get to make a decision that that's not, if it doesn't feel right, I don't have to wear it, I don't have to try it on. And it's something that I'm really grateful for, is that myself and my husband is willing to go along with it, have this desire to think differently and trust in divine intervention. And as I said, the miraculous to come our way. How do you explain 3 days later sitting down and opening a magazine and having, Dr. Rebecca Troy there with Dyslexia Solutions, like a neon sign and a clear, like, oh, okay, this is it. You ready, Fee? Are you ready? I'm ready. I'm up for it. Okay, let's do it. Yeah. So I think the underlying principles of what I've learned the most when it comes to Jarvis and I, we're very, very connected. I have 2 beautiful children, Jarvis and Remy. Of course, we're deeply connected. I just see, with the sensitivity of who Jarvis is, how more impactful my state or well-being is on him. And other parents will get that too. And I know it might sound strange that a former doctor would say that, but it's just the truth of what I've witnessed over these years. And so we can sometimes, as parents, use it as a weapon against ourselves, like, I caused this. Look, oh my gosh, I've lost my cool. I've reacted. It's the last thing he needs is for me to be, but we can also use it as an opportunity to take better care of ourselves. So as a mum, I had to separate from an identity of the holistic, integrative doctor, healer, who needs to fix him, to be like, I'm his mum. What do I need to do as a mum? And it came back to, I got to look after myself. Like, I have to deeply look after myself, because he can just feel it. It's like, if I'm a little bit out, he's just like singing in, and he's just, you can see, how that impacts him. Not necessarily now, because he's more robust, he's healthier, he's stronger, but certainly earlier on. And so that was something that I had to, you were talking about, identity. And so when it came to this program, it's stepping into a place of vulnerability again. We had, as I said, a sense of, here we go again, here we go. Where are we going to end up? Is this going to work? And we had to manage the trauma. Like, there's a residue of trauma of trying different things, getting your hopes up, getting them crashed, looking back and going, it's not just the waste of money. Like, that's something that you can I can just be like, justify easily. Well, we learned things, it's okay. But it's like the focus of your time and energy, you know, the focus in your relationship, because it's taking the time away from what you have with your child to be focused on fixing them and trying a solution that takes up 45 minutes of your day, where we could have actually just been at the beach having fun or rolling around, giggling, or, you know, like doing something else. And that's really hard as well. And then, of course, it's just this underlying beast that you have to meet as a mum, which is, well, for me personally, like the guilt, the grief, the uncertainty, the worry, you know, and I've had to meet that time and time and time again and surrender and be just like, okay, he's becoming who he needs to become, and this is a part of this big process. So I can either resist and fight it and get caught up in it, in my own pain, or I can truly love myself in this process and be greater for him. And that's actually part of the journey that had to happen in with working with you. We started off, we knew, so a lot of the responsibility initially, Nick could help me, but as it went through, obviously his own brain is wired like Jarvis. Okay, so the responsibility fell more to me, and in the dynamic of Nick and I run my own business, I have my own clients, I have, you know, and he is at home, he is, you know, an amazing nurturer, he's responsible for the home duties and, you know, given an adventure to the boys during the week. And so we have this beautiful dynamic balance. And when it came to this, it was something that I was to expand and take in, which most of the families in your group generally does fall to the mum. I must see, I don't think during my time there was any dads involved. Nick probably was the only one who really showed up for the first, you know, few weeks. True. So, you know, I think there was a sense of, well, we got to prepare ourselves for this because this is a commitment. And then we, you know, at the start, we were like, this is nothing compared to the diets we've done, to the, you know, deep detoxes we've done, to the, you know, so much that we've done. These other therapies, doing spelling lessons. We'd been doing the OG model of how to get better in spelling, which, you know, it's a long process. Like, so there's lots that we've done. And it was probably around about week 6 or 7 that I said to you, I've hit a wall. Like, I was just like, I'm just coming up against something. And it was hard. It's confronting. Like, it was my own doubt, but also my, you know, noticing, like, if I was focusing on all the wrong things. Like, you know, is he there yet? Oh my gosh, he still made a spelling mistake. And my tendencies of perfectionism came out, and that's where I was receiving your support. And we went on a holiday. I just said, I know right now I needed to have a break, and you supported me with it. I mean, during this time, we'd been to India as well together, Jarvis and I. So we'd had a really mixed, you know, really our own unique journey of what had to happen, which is what has to happen, because being the tutor in your program, life, you're not a full-time tutor, you're in the swing of life, which is a beautiful thing as well. So as just meeting that and working through it and seeing what it was, like you said, you learn something about yourself, and you can just lean in now. And now it's like I can hear other parents going through it, other mothers going through it, like their child is refusing to do something, or getting really caught on doing it the right way and not making any mistakes. And it's like, oh my gosh, our little ones are such a reflection of us. It is sometimes a bit of a pill to swallow, but with support and with time. And the fact is that you've got a strategy. Like, we've got a strategy that if we just keep leaning into, we're going to get there. That's just going to get there. And so it's hard. That makes it easy, because the other stuff is like, once you start seeing results, then you're like, oh, okay, all right, I can do it. So I'm not sure if that's entirely what you were asking.
No.
But you know, what do you learn? It's a lot, you know. Yeah.
So, I mean, as a final comment, would you have any advice for any other parents that are going through the same process, where they realize that there is a discrepancy between what their child is showing in the academics, whether it's in spelling or it's in reading, and what is capable for this child? I mean, would you offer any advice as to next steps or what to do?
Yeah, I think, it's without a doubt an amazing opportunity. It's an invitation for parents who have children with learning difficulties, dyslexia, writing refusal, poor confidence, all of that to embrace. And it's simply an amazing invitation. And to really discern whether it's a good fit for you. I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to get a result that's going to be sustainable? Do you want to follow something step by step, take the guesswork out? Oh my gosh, that's relief. As a mum who has to hold it all and multiple things at a time, it's really nice to just know, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. And if I've got any questions, I've got support. For me, like, I was really clear as to what I wanted. I knew I didn't want to, I could react and do the next thing, which is an old pattern of mine, especially when Jarvis first got sick, was like, oh, he's not good. Let me react and find the solution out there. And part of our journey is that once I let that go, to just surrender and come back to my heart to discern what it is that we need. I mean, it was 3 days later that his stutter resolved. Okay. So it's been a big part of my journey. And that's what, for me, and this is advice for any other parent, like, what do you want? What do you want for your child? And it seems so simple, but when we're caught in that survival state of rushing, we actually stop to ask the question. And for me, I was like, I want to feel supported. I want to feel confident that the effort and the energy that I'm putting into this, that there's going to be results. I want this, and I asked this to you, this is multiple times before I started. I don't want to have to keep doing this for the rest of his life. Like, I want this to be done, and I want to unlock it. And I was very clear as well, right at the start, that I would be celebrating him, that I'd be on here with you, talking about it, because it's like this amazing, miraculous thing. That's what I wanted, And so it's if that's what you want, or elements of that, then yeah, it is an investment of your time and energy that is going to give you absolute return on investment, going to give you absolute benefit. It is going to be a journey for you and your whole family. But there's a time where it's just going to all land, and then the whole, as I said, the trajectory of their life and our life together is going to be changed. So I hope that resonates for everyone who's tuning in, because I do get parents reaching out to me wanting to know. And I think at the end of the day, just lean in, and if you have to, do what you have to do in order to work with Dr. Troy, so that you get the support, but ultimately a solution that's going to get you where you want to be and keep you there. And keep you there.
Oh gosh, well, I can't thank you enough for your time, and I sincerely mean it when I say it was such a gift for us to serve you and your sweet boy. So I appreciate it very much, and
Well,
thank you
thank you
for your
so
share.
much, Becky. We've got, we're going to be talking about Dr. Becky. She's going to you're going to have a place in our hearts forever. We often just do a lot of gratitude to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And thank you for this dyslexia program. And for the other parents who have been in the community with us, it's beautiful to see other women showing up in such a powerful way. And I've often said this time and time again, like, it's a special type of person, mums who have children with special needs. Like, you get to learn a lot, they are true advocates. And sometimes they roar really loudly because they have to. But there's this beautiful thing to be in a room full of other women doing the same thing with the same aspiration, and just sometimes you can be navigating this path and feeling like you don't fit in, you don't belong, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Just sweep it under the carpet and deal with it, cope with it. It's just the way it's going to be. So it's nice for what you've created, Becky. Thank you so much, bringing people, women who are unconventional thinkers and big-hearted and absolute advocate for their children. It's a beautiful vessel, a beautiful community that you've created. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.